Hi there. So I wanted to talk to you today about GLP-1s and how do I get enough protein when I'm on a GLP-1? And why does it even matter? Because the thing is, when you're on a GLP-1, you're barely hungry, and someone tells you that you need to eat 100 grams of protein a day. And you're thinking, how? How am I supposed to do this? So with being on the GLP-1, your appetite obviously is less than it was probably before you went on the GLP-1. And you're probably not experiencing the food noise or that thinking about food all the time. And yet your nutrition needs haven't changed. In fact, we need protein more than ever. And so we're going to talk about how to get in this protein and give you some practical strategies to do so. So, why protein is non negotiable on a GLP-1? Number one, the risk of losing muscle. This is incredibly important because when we're in a caloric deficit and you have a low appetite and your body can start to break down muscle for fuel. And eating enough protein can help protect against this. And so it really matters. And then also from a metabolism standpoint, your muscle mass, it drives your resting metabolism. And because muscle is metabolically active tissue and it actually requires calories to be maintained. And also we have to eat sufficient protein for it to be maintained. And the more muscle mass you have, the greater your metabolism is. And of course, many women, when they have gone on diet after diet after diet, they start to lose muscle each time with each weight loss attempt. And so you may be even starting with less muscle mass to begin with. So it's critically important that we preserve this muscle mass. And in fact, we want to try to build muscle while we're on this GLP-1. And of course, with protein, it also provides satiety. It gives us that sense of fullness and it keeps you full longer. If you have like something that's completely carbohydrate, like let's say a banana and some cereal, that's not going to stay with you very long. But when we have protein, it provides that fullness effect and we're not hungry as quickly. And of course, when you're on a GLP-1, it's even more pronounced. And then, of course, with blood sugar stability, protein is incredibly important for this as well. So when you look at how protein does with blood sugar, when you eat protein with carbohydrate containing foods, let's say like if you had an egg with some toast or something like that, that protein is going to help slow down the rise in your blood sugar from the carbohydrates that are in that food. And it's just because protein slows down your digestion and it takes a while to break that down. And so it really is one of the things that we use to help our blood sugars be more stable over time. And this is incredibly important, of course, if you're diabetic. So how much protein do we actually need? So I did put a slide up here to show you. You can compute this for yourself, but if you look at 0.45 to 0.68 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. And so, for example, if you are a woman and you weigh like 220 pounds, this could be in the range of 100 to 150 grams of protein per day, which may be a lot compared to what you're used to eating. And you may want to even base this on an adjusted body weight or maybe a weight that's a little bit more appropriate for your height. But the idea there is we got to really make sure that we get in that protein when we're on semaglutide or tirzepatide. And it's ideal if you can spread it throughout the day. So if you have 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal, and if you're unable to get all that in at mealtime, you may need to look at doing some snacks as well. And so we want to include protein-rich foods such as eggs, Greek yogurt, chicken, tofu, turkey, fish, lentils, beans, things like that to help get us protein in throughout the day. And so again, aiming for that 20 to 30 grams at each meal is really important. And so some practical ways to hit your protein goal. Number one, prioritizing your protein dense, low volume foods. So really make it look at your meal and just see, do I have protein in this meal? Because sometimes we're not used to eating that much protein. So we really have to focus on it. And think about using liquid protein sources, things like protein shakes, bone broth, high protein smoothies, just for days when you're feeling like eating is too difficult, or maybe you're in a rush and don't have time to prepare. It's good to have these kind of things on hand. And get in the habit of eating your protein first. That way, if you're going to get full, you've at least got that protein in. Because often, if we fill up on salad or fill up on a lot of vegetables, which are very healthy for us, yes, but if we fill up on that, there's not sufficient room in our stomach in order to get it in. And then we wind up at the end of the day realizing, oh, wow, I haven't eaten enough protein today. So you have to kind of prioritize that. And think about your snacks as being an opportunity to get in protein as well. And so sometimes people don't need snacks, but if you find it difficult to get all your protein in a day, snacks can be a powerful time to do so. Plus, it does provide you that opportunity to not get over hungry, because a lot of times if we are having long stretches of time between meals, then we can get over hungry, and that can be a problem in terms of making us eat more than what we really wanted to eat, or maybe choosing something that we didn't need to choose. And so eating protein with our snacks helps bridge the gap. And so thinking about using things like hard-boiled eggs, things like cottage cheese with fruit, a piece of fruit with some almonds. These are just some examples, but they're all things that we can use as snacks that can help us to get that protein in. And just to talk to you a little bit about some common mistakes to avoid, you don't want to skip meals or skip protein entirely just because you're not hungry. Kind of have to think about nourishing your body in a different way. Our bodies need nutrients coming in all the time. And if we're missing a meal entirely because we're not hungry, we may think, oh, I don't need as much food to go on because I'm not that hungry. This is where people wind up behind the curve. And this is where people start losing muscle mass and losing the wrong kind of weight. We don't want to lose weight at the expense of losing muscle. That is definitely not a good game plan for your long-term health as well as your metabolism too. And as I mentioned before, trying not to fill up on your carbohydrates or snack foods first, leaving no room for protein, because again, it's difficult to get it in at that point. And if you rely on just one protein source all the time, for example, eating a chicken breast every day, you're going to get burned out on it very likely. So use variety. And this is where working with someone like myself, we can offer some different suggestions for different proteins that you can include so that you don't get burned out on any one particular thing. And I do recommend tracking, because it is difficult to keep up with how much protein you're taking in, especially if you're just trying to eyeball it. But there are so many wonderful tracking apps that you can use to keep up with your protein intake. And I recommend like the MyNet Diary, which is a really good one, or Chronometer. You can use things like MyFitnessPal. I often will have people track both protein and fiber. I think those are both very important things to look at when you're on a GLP-1. So I hope that you have found this to be very helpful. And just to let you know, if you are on a GLP-1 medication, it's one of the most important things you can do to pay attention to this protein. And it's going to help protect your muscle mass. It's going to support your metabolism and improve your strength and energy, which are very important. And it helps you meet your nutrition needs, even when your appetite is lower. And for many women, the challenge isn't knowing protein is important. It's just figuring out how to get enough protein in a real day of eating. And so I made this handout for you that I think would be really helpful, showing like how to get in 125 grams of protein in a day using real food. And I think sometimes if we have a visual of it and can see what this looks like in real people terms, it's helpful then that we can maybe copy some of those ideas and use them for ourselves to get that protein in. And you'll find the link in the description below. I'd love to hear from you if you have any comments, things that you would like to ask questions or whatever, or any issues that you've found to be challenging because of being on a GLP-1. Please drop it in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. I do read the comments, and I hope that you have good success with your goals and your health. Have a great day.